Alright everybody, today we are going to do sexual reproduction in plants. Now, a lot of things have to be explained in here. Okay, it has to be a detailed, a thorough explanation, and within this time, what I'm going to tell, it should be that a high level of concentration is to be maintained, because this is not an easy topic. Okay, I'm not saying that's a very difficult topic. Unless and until it is understood, it is not easy unless and until it is understood. Look here, I'll just use this board. So, before starting, remember one thing, that always sexual reproduction, the main essence of it, the main part of this is the flower. Flower is the reproductive part of the plant and it is a modified stem. Okay, these are some informations I'm giving you. It is the modified stem and it is the reproductive part of the plant. Now I'm going to start with the diagram of it. The diagram of the flower. Okay, look here. So it starts from here. Once I draw it, I'll explain it. I'll draw it in a very normal way, for it is being explained, for it is easy to understand. Okay, in a very easy way, I'll just do it. Now, this red part. This red color is for the male reproductive part. Now let's start. So this part which is arising, you see from the stem the flowers are attached by some stalk kind of structure. That is the pedicel. Now may or may not be present. Okay, when the pedicel is present in the plant, we call that plant is pedicellate. Okay, we call that flower as pedicellate. And when it is not present, in case it is not present, we call that sessile. Sessile when pedicel is not present, and when pedicel is present, so it is a pedicellate. Now, this is a green part in the plant, and this part, this part we call it as the staple. This is what we call as staple. Now, a group of sepals is called a calyx. Most often you will find that in many books calyx is written. So calyx is nothing but a group of sepals. Sepal is a unit of calyx. Now these are petals. No, we all know these are petals. Now a group of petals is also there, which we call as corolla. Corolla is a group of these three petals that we call as corolla. Now in the female reproductive part, this is the thalamus. Thalamus is the base of the female reproductive part. Thalamus. This is your ovary. And inside the ovary, 1 minute. This part not functions only sometimes. Inside the ovary we have got ovules. This whole part is actually sometimes. Okay, let's not do mischief on it. Alright, and then this tube-like structure, style, and the topmost part is the stigma. Stigma is where pollination occurs. Now in the male reproductive part, this was the female. Now one more thing you have to remember, that the female reproductive part, we call it as carpel. The whole female reproductive part we call it as a carpel or a pistil. And a group of carpel or pistils, we call it, the group is called as gynosia. So always remember that the female reproductive part is called as the gynoecium. Okay, I'll write it here. The female reproductive part is called a gynoecium. Female reproductive part is the gynoecium, and its unit is carpel or pistil. And now talking about the male reproductive part, here we go with it. So in the male reproductive part, this part, okay, this is called the filament. Filament. And this particular part is called the anther. Now again, one more thing has to be remembered, that this full group, okay, basically the male reproductive part we call it stamen. The male reproductive part is called as stamen, and a group of stamens we call it as androecium. So this was about your whole diagram I've told you. These are the main things. Now let us do one more thing. Let us bisect this anther. Let us cut this anther. What will happen if I cut this anther? What will I get to see? Let's see. Here. So what I'm going to do, that this is your anther, right? Okay, this is the filament which was going. Now if I bisect this anther, okay, if I bisect this anther, then I'll see 4 lobes. 4 lobules are there. This part not functions. Oh my god, what will I do of this part? Okay, let's see. 4 lobules you will find out here. This is joined, okay? Don't know why not working. Yeah. Ignore this. Now see, these 4 lobules are there. And in each lobule, you will find microsporangia. This is microsporangia. In each lobule it is present. Okay, in each lobule, microsporangia is present. Now inside the microsporangia, this microsporangia we also call it as pollen grain. Okay, now this pollen grain or the microsporangia, it consists of 2 male gametes. 2 male gametes are there. Okay, got it? And this pollen grain is formed by the meiotic division in the mother cell. These questions are asked, how are pollen grains formed? These are formed by the meiotic divisions by the mother cell. Alright, these are the pollen grains which are formed by the meiotic division. Not mitotic but meiotic division. Got it? This was the dissection of the this anther. Now there is some important information I would like to give you here. Let's see here. In the diagram only it will be clear for you all. So whenever you see that a plant or a fruit, it develops from the ovule or the ovary, then we call that fruit as a true fruit. True fruit when it develops from ovary. Now false fruit, there is something called false fruit also. When it develops from the thalamus, so we call that fruit as false fruit. For example, apple. Apple is a false fruit, while all the others one, if you see, those are true fruits. One more thing is to be explained, that if in the same plant, the male reproductive system, that's the gynoecium and androecium, both are present, we call that plant as bisexual. But only one part is present. Example of bisexual is hibiscus or the China rose. But when only one part is present, let's say the male one is there, so that's the male plant. But if the female part is there, that's the female part. That's unisexual. I hope that is clear. Now we will come to how pollination takes place, right? Alright. So I'll just move the board a bit. To understand how pollination takes place, let us understand in depth the female reproductive system. Okay, we'll study about the, I told you about the male reproductive system, no? In anther there are 4 lobules are there. In each lobule we have microsporangia or pollen grain. In each pollen grain we see 2 male gametes are there, and by meiotic division those are formed. These things I've already discussed. Now what happens in the male reproductive part? Okay, sorry, female reproductive part. We are going to see about the female reproductive part now. Look here, from very basic I'm going to start. This is what you all know, right? This is what? This is the thalamus. Quick revision is there, okay? This is the thalamus. This was what? This was the style, and this was the stigma. Then we saw that here we had the ovules, correct? Now what we will do, this part, this ovary, in ovary we had ovules. Now this ovary, I'm going to magnify it and I'll tell you here, okay? I'll just erase it. If I click on erase all, everything will be erased. Not taking that risk. Okay. Now look. Remember that in the ovary, I told you in the anther how many in each microsporangia, 2 male gametes are there. Now here what will happen, 1 nuclei will be there which will divide into 8 nuclei. So there will be 8 nuclei, but they will not be arranged in this way. This is not their arrangement. Arrangement I will tell you, but just remember that I'm just telling you the parts, okay? 8 nuclei are there, and the membrane which is covering, okay, which is around this ovule. This is the ovule, no? This membrane which is around the ovule, this is called integument. Okay, integument. This is the covering. Now this is the nucleus, you know that. Now again, this part is the embryo sac. Sorry, I'll write it here. This part is the embryo sac. Okay, and then now we will see the arrangement. Okay, this one is clear, no? Integument is there, the covering embryo sac. I told you 8 nuclei are there. Now let us come back here. Let's see more clearly. Now let's see that how those nuclei are arranged inside the ovule. Okay. See. This is the arrangement. Now see, these cells which are at the pole, the topmost pole, these are the synergid. So 2 nuclei are there which are at the topmost, and these 2 nuclei we call it synergid. Now this single one in the middle, this is the egg. Okay, when it is fertilized, this is the main one which is fertilized. Okay, when this is fertilized, so it forms something which we, it forms something which we called as syngamy. I will tell you about it. Now these 2 nuclei are enclosed under one cell. Okay, and these 2 nuclei are called as polar nuclei. They are enclosed under one cell only. Okay, and these 3 nuclei on 3 different cells are the antipodal cells. Antipodal cells. Okay. Now remember, how many nuclei are there? 8 nuclei. But if I tell you count the number of cells, so 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 4 cell, 5 cell, 6 cell, 7. 7 cells are there. How come? Because these 2 nuclei are consisted under one particular cell. So in this, 7 cells are there and 8 nuclei are present. Alright. Now, let us come to female. Now we are ready now to understand about pollination process. Now I will tell you how pollination takes place. It's a very interesting process. Okay, wait. So I'll shift it now. This was clear now very much. Move to another page only, no? Yeah, let's do it here. Okay. So now in pollination, what is actually pollination? Pollination is basically when the pollen grains, they fall down on the structure of stigma. Let me draw it here. Now what happens, I'll tell you here from here. This is inside the ovary part. 3 antipodals were there, 1 egg was there, 2 polar nuclei, and here synergids were there. Now let's say some pollen grains, they come and stick to the stigma. Each will have how many male gametes? 2 male gametes, already told. Now there will be a pollen tube which will run through here. Okay, and let's say one of these male gametes, they run down. One of these male gametes, they run down and they reach and fertilize the egg. Let's say one male gamete, it fertilized the egg. So this male gamete which is fertilizing the egg and forming a zygote, that is what we call as syngamy. Okay. Now the another male gamete, what will that do? Another, 2 male gametes are there, na? So another male gamete, it will fuse with 2 nuclei, this polar nuclei, it will polar cell, it will come and fuse with this. So it is fusing with 2, no? So we call this particular, it will form endosperm. What will it form? Endosperm will be formed. Better know if I write it here, because it's very important to remember about endosperm. It will form, wait a minute, endosperm. Here, endosperm will be formed. Okay, endosperm is responsible for giving the nutrients and nourishment. Alright, so what did you see here? In this case, double fertilization is taking place. Why double fertilization? Because one time the male gamete is fusing with the egg, the other time it is fusing with the polar nuclei. So which kind of fertilization? Double fertilization is taking place. And which kind of fusion is taking place? Triple fusion is taking place. Remember, fertilization is double and triple fusion is taking place. Why triple fusion? So one time it is fusing with 1 egg and the second time with 2 polar nuclei. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So triple fusion and double fertilization. I hope that is clear. Now remember some more things, that the fruit, after the fertilization, the mature ovary will turn into a fruit. So mature ovary will turn into a fruit and the fertilized ovule will turn into a seed. Okay, now just remember the seed structure. Seed structure is very important. I'll tell you. It's nothing more in it. Very easy structure is there. Okay, this is your seed. This particular part is the embryonal axis. Embryonal axis. Okay, and from here, this point and this point we called it as radicle because it gives rise to the root, and this is the plumule because it gives rise to the stem or the shoot. That's it. Okay, another thing which you have to remember is here the flower. In the flower we saw what? 2 parts were there, no? Accessory parts and the reproductive part. Accessory and reproductive. Accessory means the part of the plant which provides protection. Accessory means the part of the plant which provides protection. Protection was provided by which part? Protection was provided by 2 parts. One was the corolla and the other was the calyx. Calyx was a group of sepals and corolla was a group of petals. They added to the beauty and also the protection of the plant. And reproductive parts were what? 2 parts. First was the androecium and the gynoecium. Androecium, the male reproductive part, its unit is stamen, and the female reproductive part is gynoecium, and that's its unit is female reproductive part. The unit of the female reproductive part is carpel or pistil. These all are the things which we have discussed today. For a preview, I'll show you all the pages what we have done today. So we did this full part, then we came here, down, dissected it, we came to the structure of the ovary, magnified it, then we came here, how pollination takes place, right? These were the things discussed. Now just let's read the book once if something is there which we missed out. Okay, look. Okay, so flower is structural unit of sexual reproduction in plants. It consists of 4 floral whorls. What are those? Calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. You know calyx, group of sepals, corolla, group of petals, androecium, male one, and gynoecium, female reproductive system. Now, androecium and gynoecium are essential whorls. I told you essential parts are there, right? Reproductive parts because they perform reproduction. While calyx and corolla, they are accessory whorls because what do? They provide protection. Now, the membranes of calyx, members of calyx are sepals, green colored I told you, and corolla petals, variously colored I've told you. This diagram we have discussed in a more detailed manner. Now, a flower, this also I told you, no? A flower is bisexual when it has both the whorls, androecium and gynoecium. For example, hibiscus I told you, and unisexual if only one is present in the flower, right? Male or female. So that's example I gave you, papaya. Now, I told you this also in the very beginning that if the pedicel is present, it is pedicellate. If pedicel is not present, without stalk, so we called it sessile. Then androecium is a male whorl, and I told you that its unit is stamens. And gynoecium unit is carpel or pistil, right? Pistil also. It is carpel or pistil. Now they may be separate or united. I told you that at the end of each carpel, ovary is there, and thalamus, it surrounds it, right? And what was the membrane which was surrounding ovary? Integument. A hollow style is there, a style comes up, right? Stigma is the tip of that. An ovary contains one or more ovules. Embryo sac is there, I told you. It consists of the antipodal cells, the synergids, the egg cells, and the polar nuclei. Then pollen grains, they are transferred from anther to stigma. This is pollination. How does it occur? Through abiotic agents or through biotic agents. Now during pollination, the stigma becomes very sticky. So the pollen grains stick to it. Right? The pollens germinate when they fall upon it. Through a long pollen tube is there, 2 male gametes are formed. I told you microsporangia pollen grains, 2 male gametes are there. Now, the pollen tube, it reaches the embryo sac via the style. Through the style, it passes down. The tip of the pollen tube, it breaks, it bursts. 2 male gametes are released. One fuses with the egg cell to form zygote. The one which fuses with the egg cell, what do we call it? Syngamy. Right, and the other one with 2 polar nuclei, that's triple fusion, right? Triple fusion takes place. Endosperm is formed. What does the endosperm do? It provides nourishment to the embryo, right? And as the 2 male nuclei, they participate in the process, what do we call it? We call it double fertilization. This is we have discussed. Similarly, here also the same diagram is shown here. Now, okay, let's see this one. So when pollination takes place in the same flower, let's say from this or this, so we call it self-pollination. But if it takes place, let's say from here to here, of the same species, plants are of the same species, right? And they are pollinating, a cross is present between them, so we call it a cross-pollination. Okay, so because of that cross-pollination only, we are able to discover new high-yielding and resistant varieties of plants, right? Now let us come to germination here. Okay, so germination, I have already told you this, okay. Ovule will develop into seed, the mature ovary into fruit. The seed will fall upon, the radicle will develop into the root and what do we call it? Plumule, right? The plumule, it will develop into the shoot, right? And the zygote, it will develop at the cost of food. Zygote, how does it develop? I told you, through the endosperm. Right, endosperm provides it the nourishment and a new plantlet is formed. This is what we call as seed germination. I hope this is clear. Now, there were 2 questions in the beginning here. Yeah, these 2 questions. Let's think. Let's just think about it. So what would have happened if the male gametes and female gametes were diploid? Okay, let's say that they were diploid. Let's say 46 in sperm, 46 in ovum. They will give the whole 92 here. Okay, this is the one. Now again 92 and 92. So they will fuse, and what will form? They will form 184. Okay, then 184 one will come. It will give 184 two times, and then, so what do you see here? Every time the number of chromosomes in generation to generation, it will start increasing, right? There will be no constantly, no maintained proportion will be there. Every generation after every generation, the chromosome number will start to increase. So variations will take place, right? This will happen when the gametes are diploid. Okay, got it? So no constant variation will be there. Every time you will see that variation takes place randomly, double every time. 192, 184, then it starts increasing. That's it, what will happen. Another one. What would have happened if any of the cells in nature had not been divided by meiosis? So if any of the cells were not divided by meiosis, so no offsprings will be there. Only mitotic divisions will take place. Only asexual organisms will be there, will reproduce by asexual reproduction. So no meiosis means no offspring. That's the simple funda. No meiosis. So the punishment is that no offspring. That's it. Alright. These were the questions we had to think on. Alright. So I have completed this. Now the next day I'm going to tell you about. Now what I'll do is, in one part of the video I'm going to cover only human male reproductive system, in second part of the video only female reproductive system, and in third part of the video what I'll do is I'm going to actually in the female one, I am going to cover everything, like till menstrual cycle everything will be completed in female reproductive system. Okay, and then when we come to reproduction and modern technology, the whole concept will be done. So how many videos? 1, 2, 3. 3 more videos are required. Okay, and then everything will be done. Alright everyone, thank you, and just comment your doubts to me. Hope it was a fruitful result. You'll get a fruitful result.